Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Wednesday the 3rd of October 2018. Let's have a look at what's going on in Birmingham at the Conservative Party conference. Now this is dominating all of the papers today and indeed all of the headlines and the news agenda going on right now. And that is what the Prime Minister Theresa May is going to be announcing at about 11:45 today. She takes to the stage at the conference hall at the ICC in Birmingham to deliver her leader's speech as Prime Minister but also leader of the Conservative Party at the Conservative Party conference. Now, the key things or news lines that have been leaked out are things to do with the Prime Minister laying out a positive Brexit vision, as you can see in some of the headlines just here. I passionately believe that our best days lie ahead of us and that our wider future is full of promise. That's one of the leaked lines. She's also due to set modern conservative ideas, not just about Brexit, but also about the domestic policy as well, trying to push beyond just being a Prime Minister, which is seeing through Brexit, and also a Prime Minister who's trying to do other stuff in terms of the domestic agenda in the UK as well, some really pressing issues such as housing in particular, policing and stuff like that. So repeatedly contrasting herself between the steady as she goes Prime Minister who, despite everything, keeps on going, compared to the Jeremy Corbyn radical policies, hard left, as the Conservative Party, or many in the Conservative Party would say, constantly playing off that idea and that fear amongst some of the electorate of a left-wing Prime Minister, which she knows polls well and gets her popularity in the masses. In terms of policy announcements, now obviously I said on Monday the main thing that she's going to be announcing is to do with immigration. That was pushed forward from yesterday. It was mainly Sajid Javid who announced that, and that was because of Boris Johnson turning up yesterday and giving his big speech. We'll cover that in a second. But in order to get in front of the news lines and try and, in a way, eclipse Boris Johnson, they announced the immigration policy. So what's she going to be announcing today? Its reports are, and the Sun's got this, as you can see right here, fuel duty will be frozen for a 9th consecutive year. That's according to the reports from the Sun in particular. And there's also a lot of reports which are saying there's a big policy planned, or at least rumours of a big policy plan to do with housing as well. Now that's pledges to make it easier to rent, but also some more radical stuff like proposals to encourage landlords to sell properties to their tenants. Now that would be quite a radical piece of domestic policy. Again, we'll find out at about 11:45 what she's actually got up her sleeve, but that's the rumours going around at the moment. Let's look at the next story though, which was the main event yesterday in the Conservative Party conference. Now I was there in the morning, I left before Boris Johnson arrived, but I can tell you the hype around Boris Johnson's arrival was really palpable in the air. There was queues, people queuing for hours, delegates particularly of the Conservative Party membership queuing for hours to get into this conference room, fringe conference room off the side of the main conference hall, still quite a sizable place, just to see Boris Johnson and to hear what he had to say. He obviously popped up for the day and then promptly disappeared as well after business was done, making sure he secured all of the news lines and the news agenda he could. Main criticisms, well, Labour came under fire, but obviously for the radical policies under Jeremy Corbyn, particularly announced at their party conference last week. Philip Hammond's plans for tax rises. Boris Johnson very anti-tax, anti the fact that putting more burden on people to pay for the state to deliver things. But in particular, and this is what, if you can have a look at the videos of Boris Johnson's speech, this is what got the real applause and the cheer from party members yesterday. It was to do with chucking Chequers and criticising the Prime Minister's Chequers proposal. And herein lies the real problem for Theresa May, not just in terms of the country, but particularly in terms of what's going on inside her own party. Many MPs are against her on Chequers, but also it seems, at least from that conference hall, a lot of the party membership are deeply unhappy with the Chequers proposal as well, and are willing to go along with what Boris Johnson has to say, which was beyond Chequers. It was a far more leadership in waiting kind of speech. This is what I would do as a wider policy agenda. But the key line, if we cheat the electorate and Chequers is a cheat, we will escalate the sense of mistrust. And the key term when he said it's time to chuck Chequers, the round of applause was huge in terms of what was going on within that conference hall. Also, Michael Gove came under fire from Boris Johnson. Michael Gove, obviously a Leaver, very much pushing for his form of Brexit in the early days, has now come around to Chequers to say Chequers will do at the moment. It will do for an initial agreement with the EU, and then over the years we'll be able to negotiate what we really want with the EU at a later time. Boris Johnson saying, don't think we can botch it now and fix it later. So obviously directly criticising Michael Gove's position in terms of a Brexiter supporting Chequers. We'll find out just how Theresa May's speech goes down and the dynamics in terms of party membership of Boris versus May, as you can see in the headlines, really being played out now as a direct leadership challenge for the Prime Minister, which will no doubt continue in the weeks ahead as well. One more story then, coming from a piece of policy that came out during conference. Civil partnerships are being to be extended to all across the UK, particularly in England and in Wales. So this will be allowing heterosexual couples to have civil partnerships instead of marriages if they so wish. Currently, civil partnerships are only for same-sex couples when it was first introduced in 2005. This follows the Supreme Court ruling earlier on this year in June that civil partnerships should be extended to all and should not just be limited in any way. And this will provide, as many of the reports say, greater security for unmarried couples or people in a relationship who don't want to get married. There's reportedly about 3.3 million unmarried couples in England and Wales, according to the Guardian reports today. Limitations, however, there's still a couple of nuances to this. There's no date for implementation. Equalities Minister Penny Mordaunt, who you can see here, has said that the change in the law will happen as swiftly as possible, but there hasn't been a date put on it in terms of a target. And of course, it will have to be introduced separately in Scotland and Northern Ireland. But still a piece of policy there which has come through, which no doubt for, well, 3.3 million people, 3.3 million unmarried couples might have a positive impact. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. I'll be covering what's going on with Theresa May and the conference speech, obviously on my Twitter handle @RJHW. If you're interested in anything we've covered, comment box is just below. Start a conversation about any of the points. And I'll be back on Friday to give you a full roundup of what's happened in the week and what to look forward to over the weekend going into next week as well. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic day. See you again on Friday.